After what's felt like an eternity, Yellowstone is back with a bang as we find out the fates of our favorite characters from Montana in a 2-hour season premiere. Hi there mate, how's it going? It's Benji here, and this is a breakdown and review of Yellowstone's Season 4 premiere. The first 2 episodes, titled Half the Money and Phantom Pain. If you don't remember, one of their enemies put out a hit on the Dutton family at the end of Season 3. John got peppered with bullets on the side of the road. A bomb went off at Beth's Schwartz and Meyer office. 2 armed assailants went after Casey at the Livestock Association, and more lowlives were sent to the ranch itself. Let's start with the big man. His situation is the worst among all of them. It is so bad that he feels the need to write with his blood the details of the van his attackers used, specifically its color and its direction. Rip gets to John right when John loses consciousness, so the note he left comes in handy. Rip arranges a medevac to get John to the hospital faster, and he also shares the details about the van with Casey. Casey has taken down the attackers that came after him, and he's out to intercept John's attackers with the help of the Sheriff's Department and the Livestock Association. They get every single one of the bastards in an insane shootout, but Casey gets 2 bullets for his trouble. He'll be fine though. Beth has surprisingly survived the assassination attempt on her life, though she has some burn marks that she'll carry for the rest of her life. She must have ducked and taken cover just as the bomb went off because she noticed the unusual box at the end of Season 3 and warned her assistant not to open it, so she sensed the threat and survived because of it. The ranch is under attack as well. The bad guys almost get to Tate and Monica, but Tate saves her mother by shooting the assailant. They get to the bunkhouse after this, where more assassins are being taken care of. Weirdly though, we don't see these 2 again for the rest of the premiere. The only loss really during this sequence is Rip's cabin, which was gifted to him by John. This used to be John's father's cabin, so it was invaluable from an emotional standpoint, both for John and Rip. Rip has lost the only material thing he's ever had, not to mention the symbol of his connection with John. So that's the opening sequence. I was definitely not disappointed by it, but I thought at least one person would pass away, at least one of the ranch hands for example. I get not killing off the major characters, but I found the decision not to kill anybody a little bit weird. Other than that though, these opening minutes were awesome and got me hyped for the return of the show. We jump forward a few months to learn that John is okay. He was comatose for a while and they didn't think he'd ever wake up, but here he is, the old geezer. He's as grumpy as ever, which helps lighten up the mood after that insane start. The ranch is heavily protected now. There are livestock agents outside the gates and Casey's camped out in a ghillie suit in case anything goes wrong. Beth and Casey briefly discuss what happened with John. Casey says everyone they sent is dead, but John asserts that they need to find the sender. Beth thinks it's Jamie. What a shock this is, right? She goes after him in the AG's office, promising that she'll kill him herself when the time is right. Jamie proclaims he had nothing to do with it, and I believe him. Also, Jamie and his biological father, Garrett, talk to a realtor to buy a ranch and Jamie decides to do it, further distancing himself from the Dutton family. He's preparing to start his own dynasty. The main reason for this falling out is Jamie's decision to lease a part of the Yellowstone ranch to Market Equities. Jamie thought Market Equities would get the land using eminent domain, which would force the Duttons to sell to the government as the land will be used to build an airport for public use, so the government could have forcibly bought the land. Jamie prevents that and doesn't sell the land, he only leases it. Nonetheless, this goes against John's wishes. He doesn't want a darn airport on his ranch, so Jamie is estranged from the Dutton family. Going back to the mastermind of the attack, Casey thinks the Montana Free Militia did it themselves because of the events that took place in Season 2. They helped Malcolm Beck kidnap Tate back then, so the Duttons went after the militia and got the better of them. Casey thinks this must have been their revenge plot. That's why John gives Casey the go-ahead to kill every remaining member of the militia. We have to visit the Painted Horse Casino to wrap up the assassination plot for now. A man named Checkers is boasting about putting together the crew that went after John. So Mo, Rainwater's second-hand man, is immediately on this because that information is quite useful. It would inform Rainwater about who they should be watching out for because they could be the next target. Mo goes old school and drags Checkers behind a horse to get him to speak, and Checkers eventually cracks, though we don't hear what he's got to say. We're probably gonna be in the dark about this for at least a couple of episodes. Rip, in the meantime, goes after Rourke Morris. Rourke sent his goons to attack Colby and Teeter at the end of Season 3, and they barely made it out alive. So Rip goes up to Rourke as he is fishing and unleashes a rattlesnake which bites and poisons Rourke. He runs away but collapses soon afterwards. Rip comes up to him and watches him drift away. Time to talk business now. Market Equities, the company that's building the airport, has a new CEO, Caroline Warner. She's in town because a skull is found on the construction site and construction is halted. Caroline makes Rainwater an offer he can't refuse. She says something along the lines of, "We'll fund your casino and hotel construction and together we'll turn this place into the new Las Vegas." In exchange, she wants the airport construction to continue. Obviously, this is an unbelievable offer, but Rainwater is hesitant. He has to see the actual fine print of the deal to believe it. Talking of fine prints, Beth has a chat with his former boss Bob Schwartz, who sold her out by selling Schwartz & Meyer to Market Equities. This is especially damaging because Bob and Beth bought a lot of land around the Yellowstone Ranch to put it in a conservation reserve program. This way, they prevented urbanization and made money from this government program by not turning the land into farmland. So it benefited both the Duttons and Bob Schwartz. However, like we said, Bob sold Beth out, but Beth tells Bob to re-examine the fine print, suggesting that the Duttons co-own the land with Schwartz & Meyer. That would be incredible if it's entirely correct, because it would undermine Market Equities' plan to urbanize the land around the ranch. Other than that, Beth's busy with a kid she meets at the hospital, Carter. This little fella is a troublemaker because his father passes away from a drug overdose and he gets involved in some criminal activities. Beth takes him under her wings, but Rip says not so fast. This kid is like a small version of Rip, and Rip eventually warms up to the kid and gives him a chance. As you know, Beth can't have children, and that's probably why she warms up to Carter so quickly. Also, Carter has a mouth on him like Beth. He's an orphan like Rip, so he doesn't really feel like a stranger. He's like a mix of Beth and Rip. And in the end, Carter becomes the new stable boy and starts living with Rip and Beth. This storyline took up a lot of screen time during the premiere and I enjoyed that. It was quite different from the rest of the events, so it provided a nice change of pace, a bit similar to how John hung out with his grandson Tate in Season 3. Jimmy is alive too, by the way, though his physical condition is less than ideal. John had explicitly told him not to do rodeo anymore, and Jimmy promised John he wouldn't, but he went ahead and broke his promise, as well as his back, at the end of Season 3. This is why John is sending him away with Travis to see if he can finally become a proper cowboy. Who is Travis, you might ask? Well, he's a horse trainer we've seen in previous seasons. He is portrayed by the showrunner himself, Taylor Sheridan, and John wants Travis to represent the Yellowstone Ranch going forward. John says he wants people to think of Yellowstone when they think of horses, and Travis agrees to put together a team to execute this vision, which could potentially make John a whole lot of cash in the future. But this will require investment, millions of dollars, and John is willing to do it because he needs to turn the ranch into a national brand. Name recognition on this valley alone doesn't cut it anymore, as they get crushed by big companies like Market Equities, so they need to branch out. The last scene we'll mention is a flashback to 1893. We meet James Dutton here. He's either John's grandfather or great-grandfather, not sure which. But anyway, this is just an introduction to James because he's the main character in the Yellowstone prequel titled 1883. By the way, that show is set to come out in December, and I will be covering every single episode of it. Woof, that was a lot to sift through, but the premiere flew by when I watched it for the first time last night, and there's nothing quite like this show's scenery and over-the-top badass characters, which makes me very glad to be covering it again. Regarding the premiere, Monica and Tate's absence was the only out-of-place element. Caroline seems like a much better corporate villain than the likes of Villa and Rourke from last season, so I'm glad about Caroline's arrival. It might be too early to talk about Carter, but it looks like he'll be important for Rip and Beth's stories. I hope Jamie eventually gets back to the Dutton family because I don't think he is guilty, but I don't know, this relationship seems too far gone at this point. And yeah, that's about it. What did you think about the premiere? Leave your comments down below, like this video if you've enjoyed this breakdown, and subscribe for more movie reviews and TV show breakdowns. Thank you for watching, take care, and see you in the next video.